Hello there, this is Sarah and welcome to another of my videos. This one is just a little bit of fun. It's going to be quite quick and we're going to be using the wet in wet technique to create a little pumpkin bookmark because it's autumn, we're in October and Halloween's just around the corner. So this is a little bit of fun. So we're going to produce a bookmark. I've got a pre-made one here which is made from watercolour card and we're just going to add a little stack of pumpkins to it. So I've drawn out my picture. So all we need to do is just trace around all the lines of our pumpkin. Now feel free to fast forward if you know what you're doing. But I'll just go through all of it if it is your first time. So with tracing paper, just try to hold it still with one hand while you go around with the other. You want a nice sort of firm pressure, but not to the point where you're going to break your pencil, just as if you were writing a letter. Just that sort of pressure is fine. And I've done just a very simple suggestion of leaves. I'm not actually going to put the veins in on the leaves, I'll just do that randomly later. Okay, so I've just got my outline like so. So my pencil's on this side, so if I turn it over I can push it through, but then my pumpkins will be back to front. So it depends if you want them the right way round. If you do, then just get a scrap piece of paper and just go over, sorry about that noise, just go over all your lines again, holding it still and steady. And this will then get the pencil lead onto this side of the tracing paper. And then we can turn it over and trace. So effectively, you're tracing 3 times. It's just to give you a bit of a guide. I do encourage you to practice your drawing skills, something I don't take much time to do myself. I must admit, I always dive straight into painting, but your paintings will be better if you do take a little bit of time over your drawing. So we can discard that now. So get your bookmark and then we're going to turn it over. Yep, it is that way round. Had to think for a minute which way. There we are. And then just position it where you want to. You could have it right down the bottom, you could add some more, or you can have it in the middle and you can write something there. Completely up to you. I'm going to put mine sort of in the middle. You could do this as a friend, for a friend. It's a nice little gift. Hand painted bookmark is always a really lovely, thoughtful, small gift to give. It doesn't take a lot in terms of money, but it's the gesture that I think is really lovely, and lots of people enjoy reading, so a little bookmark makes a nice little present. Just have a peek and make sure it's coming through. If it's not coming through, just press a little bit harder with your pencil. I might change the shape of some of my leaves here, but it's just as a bit of a guide. There you are, and you should have something like so. So now you can just take a minute to just redefine the shape. If you've got any little bits that are missing, or you think just want to make that a bit more of a round pumpkin there, you can make any changes now. I've got a little line there that I don't want, I'm going to take that out. Going to exaggerate the shape of that one a little bit. Maybe add another little stalk. You want your segments to be quite sort of rounded, and then it gives you the impression of a nice big fat pumpkin. Just going to add Add a little bit more of a sort of leaf shape to that bit. Yeah, not happy with that bit. You can just fiddle about a little bit until you get the sort of shape that you want. Don't know why I'm struggling with this bit. Yeah, it's more of a leaf shape. Okay, so when you're happy with that, again, you can just gently remove any hard lines once you've got things in place, just so you can see it as a guide. So it's enough for your eyesight personally to be able to see it, but it's not too bold. I've also got some sea salt here. I've got some larger sea salt, and I've got some just plain normal table kitchen salt as well. So we'll have a little bit of play with those as well. If you've got some, grab a little pot and we'll be able to use that. So this is just for some fun. So now we need to mix up the colours for our pumpkin. So, I mean, we have to have a sort of orange, don't we? I'm thinking of those sort of lovely gourds you can have as well. You see lovely greens and browns. You get lots of options in the supermarket now. They tend to put those nice sort of gourds out as well. So there's the yellow and red. It's a really nice, rich sort of sunset orange. I want a yellowy orange. This is more like a flesh, pumpkin flesh colour. Rinse in between using your colours so that you keep them nice and vibrant. Then just test them on a piece of scrap paper. So we've got two nice different oranges there. And then let's mix up some nice sort of different greens as well. So the yellow and blue. A bit more. Yeah. Going to put a lot more blue on that one, and just a little bit. This should be a nice darker green. And then I also want to add a little bit of the burnt umber onto this one. That's going to give me a sort of a browny green, so a more earthy tone of that green. And yeah, that's fine. I might go with a nice sort of red, more reddy yellow. That's too bright. I'll turn that down a bit. So we've got a really nice rich colour there as well, and I'm going to add some sepia into that. I just want to sort of give it a more earthy tone, and this is going to be for the the creases at the bottom of my pumpkin. There, it's much richer. This one's dried really light actually. I might just increase the consistency of that one, keep the tone, but I just want to make a bit more paint there, because that dried quite watery. There we are. So we've got a nice yellow, we've got a nice mid-orange tone, and then we've got something for the darker tones as well. So we can drop all of that in. Another fun bit. So I'll just get some clean water. It's completely up to you. You could paint these wet on dry. I'm going to pre-wet mine a little bit because I want to do this wet in wet. It's just fun. You can just drop the colours in and let them sort of bleed and merge. Because my pumpkins are touching, they're all stacked up, I think it might be quite fun to let those sort of colours run together. It really helps just to loosen up your watercolours. If you find you're very sort of particular and you're a very sort of neat and tidy painter, it's quite fun for you to be a bit rebellious and go outside the lines a little bit. Plus this is such a quick little thing to do. It's great because if you haven't got a lot of time, you still feel like you've had a little bit of painting time, which is nice. Okay, so I'm going to go straight in with a nice yellow that nice yellowy orange tone. And it's already bleeding in up to here, so I'm going to help it along. Now I'm going to leave a little white gap here, so I've got a bit of a shine on my pumpkin. Let's go with this stronger orange here. There's no rhyme or reason, I haven't practiced this, I'm just going to go straight in. Leave a little shine there as well. If I drop in while it's wet, I'll just drop in that stronger orange there. Just a hint down the bottom of that really dark orange as well. That's quite nice. And then should we go for a little green one on top? Oh look, it's merging really nicely into here. I think I'm going to do this sort of a two-tone. So I'm going to have a bit of the yellow, because it's already bleeding in from here, which is really nice. I don't want to disturb that, so I'll just paint just underneath it, and then it can find its own way. And I've got this lovely little hint of green here, which I think is quite nice. It's making me think of Cinderella. Pumpkin time. Should we drop a little bit of dark in there and see what happens? See, I don't want to paint it in, I just want to introduce it and try not to dictate where it's going to go. That's the fun of Wet in Wet, is you a little bit experimentary with it. Drop that darker in there. There we go. And then I've got this darker green. I might use some of this for my stalk. Oh, now before it dries, I'm just going to drop a little bit of salt in there. Might be a bit of a small subject to put the sea salt, but I'm going to drop it in. It only works if you do it when it's really wet, so make sure while it's still damp you sprinkle that salt in while it's still damp, otherwise you won't get any effect. It has to be damp for it to start to activate. So while that, I'll just switch to a smaller brush. So I'm not going to do anything else with this now. I'll let this settle, but I can do my stalks because they're dry. So I'm just going to paint a little green stalk in. I think I might leave like a little bit of a highlight in between. Suggestion of a little bit of light on there. Drop a little bit of a darker just at the base, might be nice. There, I'm fiddling. As it's drying, but it's not quite dry, so you could introduce a little bit more of a darker tone at the bottom to give them weight. Now what this will do is, because the drying, it's slowing down because it's getting drier, but it's still ever so slightly damp. It means that whatever you put in isn't going to be a crisp line. It's going to softly still disperse, but at a much slower rate. It won't travel as far or as fast. So you can put a few little bits in and they won't go too far, but you'll get a softer effect. So I'm just dropping a bit of that really nice dark orange in. It's going to mingle just ever so gently. There, I'm interested, this is really nice, this little bit. I'm interested to see what's going to happen there. Okay, so we can do the leaves as well. I think we need a bit more green, don't we? Oh, going into the red then by accident. There we are. And I think I want to add a little bit of autumnal colours as well to the leaves. So shall we pre-wet the leaves as well, and then they can they can go wet in wet as well, merge a bit. I've got to be careful not to go into the pumpkin if I can help it. I think I've just caught the end of it because there's a little bit of orange just creeping, but that's okay. There's no right or wrong. It's quite a nice little way just to practice getting comfortable with wet in wet. Because, I mean, it's so small, it's not going to be a disaster if it goes wrong. But it helps you to observe what the paint does in such a small little way that you're not going to be, you know, it's not the end of the world if it goes a little bit wonky. This is when you have a happy little accident, really, if you just leave it to do its thing. I'll pop some yellows in there as well for the leaves. And quite fancy a sort of an orangey leaf over there with a bit of red in it. We can go really autumnal with that one. Trying not to touch the green bit. How about some browns as well? If we drop a little brown in there as well at the edges where the leaves sort of go a bit crunchy at the edges. That might be quite nice. Have some brown leaves. And then if we add a little of the yellow in, we've got that nice sort of two-tone. Picked up a lot of leaves yesterday, so I'm going to do a nice leaf study soon. And we can practice this on bigger leaves. It's such a nice way to get comfortable with wet and wet because it's so much fun. Should go for a green one over here. It's drying really quickly on me actually. As quick as I'm putting it in there, it's drying. Going to use a little bit of green at the edges because if it does travel up the pumpkin it's okay because it will sort of match. There we go. So I'm going to leave that to dry. Just let it settle. I'm not going to put any salt in the leaves, I don't think. I think I'm just going to leave them in the pumpkin because it's going to give me like a sort of a fleshy texture, hopefully. So we'll pause here. Just let it dry completely. You can use a hairdryer if you're in a hurry. But I'm just going to leave mine and then we'll pop back and put a few little finishing touches on. So now our pumpkin is dry. I'm just going to remove any of the salt. Make sure it's completely dry before you do this. Just tap that off. And you should see a really nice texture. I've got a little wet bit over here. I've got to be careful, it's still a little bit damp. But you'll see where the salt has reacted with the paint. And you've got this almost lovely like a tangerine skin sort of effect, which is quite nice for the pumpkin skin. So now you can decide just to put in any last little details. I'm going to add a bit of brown into some of the stronger orange that I've got here, and this is going to just act as my darkest tone. I just want to put a little bit of detail in where the segments of the pumpkin, there we go, like that. You can also put a few little darker marks in if you want to enrich the skin a little bit. You can use sort of a stippling effect where you do this and you sort of build up the texture of the skin just by either little lines or dots. And if you build that over, this is called stippling, if you build that over your pumpkin skin, it slowly starts to build up a nice texture. So I'm just going to do this with quite a light consistency here, just for a little bit of extra detail. I mean, it's just a sort of relaxed painting. I'm not going for the perfect pumpkin here by any means. Just a little bit of definition. Just going to put a few of those little segments in. it's still a bit wet there. Well, I'll drop a bit in while it's wet and that can just warm it up a little bit. That's lovely. I don't want to go over it too much because I've got really nice texture here. It's subtle, but that's quite nice. So I just want a bit of a darker detail just at the base of this pumpkin here. The same, just a little bit more green. Going to mix a little of the raw umber. Just a tiny bit of black, not much, I just want it to be quite a dark line, that's all. And then I'm just going to use this to put some of the veins of the leaves on. It'll always dry a little bit lighter. Might take a little bit of that in there and use this for the base of this pumpkin just to give it a bit of weight, because it is the big one sitting at the bottom, so I feel like it needs a darker tone just at the base, just to give it that weight that it's sitting on the ground. It's got all the others on top of it, so I feel like it should have a little bit of weight to it. And then I can put some little veins in there as well. Not veins, sorry, just the sort of the crease mark between the segments. Tidy that edge up. So it's just personal choice. You can leave it really loose, or just have some fun adding as much or as little detail as you like. There's no right or wrong. They're your pumpkins. And then you can also use the colours that you have and just add a little fun splatter if you'd like to. It's quite nice when you've got all this space up here. It's quite nice to add a little bit of movement in there. Just make sure you've got enough water to pick up all your paint, and then you can give it a little splash. That's really pretty. And you could write on here, you know, Happy Halloween or somebody's name if you'd like to. The other thing you could do is you could use an ink pen here. So this is just a standard black micron pen. You can get lots of different ones. It's just a waterproof pen. But if you wanted to, you could go in and put just a little bit of definition. And this is sort of a pen and ink style. It's completely up to you if you want to do this. Sometimes it's nice just to leave it with the watercolour, but I know a lot of people like to add this into their paintings. Picked up a bit of salt on there. I should really be leaving mine to dry. But you see, you get the definition, whereas this is more soft, and then it just makes it stand out a little bit. So it's absolutely personal choice. If you don't have one of these pens, you could quite simply just use a little biro, a black biro at home. Absolutely fine for something like this. If you want to just add a little bit of definition. I think the secret with this is don't go overboard with it. But it's quite nice. You could do a few little dots. And for me, I want to get a little bit of just depth here. As I say, I want it to feel like the weight of this pumpkin. So I'm just going to use a couple of little dots just to create a bit of texture, but without too much detail. Just a few little marks on the bottom of each pumpkin. That can be quite effective. Yeah, I feel like I'm over fiddling now, so I'm going to leave it alone. And there you are. So it's a very quick demonstration. Obviously you could take a lot more time over yours, or you could just do a nice spontaneous random wet in wet like what I've done. And there we are. Add a little tassel and you've got yourself a lovely little pumpkin bookmark that you can give to somebody. Perfect little Halloween treat. Hope you've enjoyed that. And yeah, you've got the you've got the outline, so you could do an even bigger one and create your own stack of pumpkins. So it's just a nice, easy subject for you to practice your brush marks, your mixing your colours, and have a play with different markings as well. And what I would do is, if you're building up a stipple effect like that, once it's dry, you can then take another colour and you can just glaze over it. And as you can see, it allows you to see the marks underneath, but it softens them. And this is a really good way to build up pumpkin skin. So if you're going to do that, I'd recommend stippling, let it dry, and then glaze over it, and then let this dry, and then go in with another colour and keep building on it and see the effects that you get. But you want to be able to see a few of the layers underneath, so you don't want to cover all of it. Let some of it breathe through, and you're going to get a really lovely pumpkin skin effect. So that's one to have a go at as well. But I hope you've really enjoyed this. Have a very happy Halloween, and I'll see you in another video.